It begins not with a gavel or a crowd, but with a glow, a phone screen in the dark, a thumb scrolling through static until it stops. On a post, quiet and unadorned, from a man most Americans have never heard of, Ed Martin, the Justice Department's pardon attorney. The link he posted was simple. The contents, anything but. There it was. A proclamation, black serif text against white, declaring a full, complete and unconditional pardon for Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Mark Meadows, and dozens of others who had danced, brazen and unrepentant, through the ashes of American democracy. Signed by Donald J. Trump. Not a tweet, not a press conference, just digital ink in the dying hours of a Sunday night. A document of absolution delivered like a secret. Or a warning. It had been exactly 5 years since Joe Biden was declared the winner of the 2020 presidential election. And now, Trump, still claiming that very contest was stolen, was rewriting the epilogue. Not with evidence, not with remorse, but with a pen. Not for himself, but for everyone else. Giuliani, the once beloved mayor, now bloated with conspiracy, reduced to a punchline of press conferences held between crematoriums and sex shops, pardoned. Sidney Powell, who threatened to release the Kraken and instead released lawsuits stitched together from delusion and chatroom posts. Pardoned. Mark Meadows, the gatekeeper, the strategist, the quiet co-conspirator. Pardoned. Each name inked onto a proclamation that called them victims, not criminals, not liars, victims. The language was sanctimonious. A grave national injustice had been perpetrated, it read, and this act was part of national reconciliation. But for whom? Not for Ruby Freeman, the Georgia election worker falsely accused by Trump's allies, who lived in fear for months. Not for the countless volunteers and officials who received death threats just for counting ballots. Not for Mia Santos. Mia was 29. She worked a polling station in Arizona in 2020. She wore a denim jacket covered in little pins, one for her dog, one that said, "Every vote counts." After the election, she had to quit her job. Men were showing up at her apartment. Someone followed her sister to work. Her mother begged her to leave town. She did. She hasn't come back. Mia didn't get a proclamation. She didn't get a pardon. She got silence. These pardons only apply to federal crimes. They can't touch the state charges filed in Georgia, where grand juries still stir and prosecutors still pursue. But even so, the message is clear, from Trump to the world. Stand with me, and I will erase your sins. That's not justice. That's fealty. And it wasn't just the election allies. Trump slipped in other names too. A former NYPD officer who stalked a New Jersey family on behalf of the Chinese government. Darryl Strawberry, the fallen baseball hero haunted by addiction and a 1995 tax conviction. All swept up in the same inkstroke. A choir of the fallen lifted into redemption by a man who sees mercy not as principle, but as performance. This isn't the first time a president has used the pardon like a sword or a shield. Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon. George H.W. Bush absolved men who covered up arms deals in Iran-Contra. But this feels different. This is the pardon used not in hindsight, not in regret, but as a weapon in a war over truth itself. These aren't endnotes. These are rewrites. And yet, the law remains stubborn. Georgia still breathes. Indictments still glimmer on the horizon. Trump has not pardoned himself, not yet. But the attempt to reshape the narrative has already begun, because that's what this really is. Not just a legal maneuver, but a story. A fable of loyalty, a gospel of betrayal, a new mythology where insurrection becomes injustice and the accused become martyrs. And if you're not careful, you'll believe it. That's the danger of a moment like this, when power tells a lie loudly enough, often enough, wrapped in legal language and signed in presidential ink. It starts to feel real. Truth becomes something you vote for or pardon away. But there is still time to resist the rewrite. You resist it by remembering. by saying the names of the workers, not just the schemers, by honouring the vote counters and truth-tellers who stood tall in the storm. You resist it by asking yourself, what story are we writing now? And who will read it in 10 years? Because if we don't tell the truth of this moment, someone else will write it for us. And that version, it will begin not with a phone screen, but with a flag, a courtroom, a gun. Subscribe now, stay awake, and speak the truth before they try to pardon that too.